going to get started. Our first presenter for today is Andrea Otto. She is a school teacher in Antigua and also a longtime dedicated volunteer of the Environmental Awareness Group in Antigua and Barbuda. She is an avid, awesome birder and expert on birds in Antigua. She's done many of our training workshops and led lots of exciting education and monitoring programs in Antigua. And also been involved in their restoration projects, which she's going to be talking to you about today. So the title of her talk is A Participatory Approach to Managing Offshore Islands in Antigua and Barbuda. Take it away, Andrea.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to give you a very, very quick rundown of the sorts of lessons that we have learned using a participatory approach to managing the offshore islands in Antigua and Barbuda. The program, which is the Offshore Islands Conservation Program, is in Antigua and Barbuda and Redonda. Those are islands in the middle of the Caribbean. We are the most northerly of the Leeward Islands. The program area is in the Northeast Management Marine Area, established in 2006. It is a key biodiversity area, and it is an important bird area. There are more than 30 islands that encompass the NEMA and parts of the mainland. They range up to about 240 hectares. Some are privately owned, some are still state-owned, and almost every one of them have been invaded in the past by black rats and a smaller number by small Asian mongooses. So the story really begins quite a long time ago when Antigua was settled by Europeans in the 1800s, and they would have brought with them a settler that none of them paid any attention to, which was the black rat. At that time, Antigua's biodiversity did include parrots, a burrowing owl, curly-tailed lizards, and of course the famous Antigua rhesus snake. Of course, the rats do not get along well with native species, and so it decimated the populations quite badly. The settlers tried to introduce mongoose, another invasive alien species. However, that mongoose and the rats, they didn't meet very often, and the mongoose ended up decimating and completely extirpating the Antigua rhesus snake from the mainland. That particular snake was thought to be completely extinct until in 1995, it was discovered on a really tiny offshore island. That's Great Bird Island. And contrary to the opinions of many scientists at that time, they started a 25-year effort to bring the snake back from the brink of extinction and to conserve it. The program mainly began with eradication efforts on the offshore islands. It involved technical work, cutting of grids, and laying down of anticoagulants, which the rats then consumed, and in this way, they were able to eradicate every single rat from up to 16 islands since 1995. As hoped for, the snake population was able to blossom, moving from less than 50 individuals in 1995, and at this present moment, it is believed that the population is well over 1,000 individuals. It has worked so well that we have been able to expand the range of the snake and reintroduce it to other offshore islands that had their snakes eradicated. As is often the case, improvements in biodiversity has meant improvements in improvements in habitat, have meant benefits for other forms of biodiversity, notably the seabirds. The number of breeding pairs of the seabirds has increased markedly from the start of the eradication in 1995. We've also had land birds which have benefited greatly from the effort. So there's a beautiful picture of Green Island showing the many terns that have started to nest on those islands since the rats have been eradicated, and the mongoose. Redonda grew out of the OICP, out of that particular program, and it is now world famous and is all on its own. Redonda was basically deforested, eroding into the sea. Through the efforts of the EAG and many, many partners, that particular island has had all of its 6,000 and more rats eradicated and the goats removed. And as a result, there has been a spectacular transformation where Redonda now has lots and lots of vegetation, and the seabirds, the large numbers of seabirds that nest there have been able to raise broods of chicks that have not had to contend with rats attacking the chicks or eating the eggs. Maiden Island West is another notable project within the program, and that is a particularly proud event that we were part of. The private owners of the island requested that their involvement not be made public, and that is something we were able, a wish that we were able to fulfill happily. So this very small introduction to the project has to include, of course, a description of the sort of participatory efforts that were made on our behalf, because it does take a countrywide effort. This is one of the very important sets of people that have been steering the project, especially for Redonda. In this particular picture, we do have stakeholders from the government, from the Forestry Department, from the Fisheries Division, from the Department of the Environment. We also have commercial entities that have been helping the project to go along, and that would include the helicopter company that was very instrumental in the eradication efforts on Redonda. We also have the AG, and we also have many, many people, especially local people, whose skills have made a huge difference to how the project has been going. We are also extremely interested in sharing our results with our membership and members of the public. So we do have regular sessions and meetings in which we do sharing. We have been blessed to have a minister of the environment who has been extremely enthusiastic about the project. And because of his efforts and the efforts of that particular ministry, the project has run far more smoothly than would be expected. For example, the Department of the Environment has allowed us to import the anticoagulant that we have been using in the eradication efforts. And it has been able to be done with far less hassle than if they were not involved. We have had lots of NGOs as well who have showed interest and whose participation we have welcomed, like the Red Cross, for example. They have been important in our health and safety concerns. We have senators. There's a senator in this picture, and most importantly, we have an extremely popular media personality, and his enthusiasm has meant a lot of positive exposure for the project in the media. We've been invited over and over several times to talk about the work that is being done in the Offshore Islands Conservation Program. The floating classroom is one of the things that we are most proud of. Because of the floating classroom, over 10,000 students and teachers have been exposed to the habitat of the NEMA, and that is one of the things that we push because we recognize the influence that children can have over the success of a program over time. This picture is included because it includes one of our very important international partners, or representative of them, and they have been there since the beginning of the project. And this also shows a particular individual who is a guest of the Mill Reef Club, and the Mill Reef Club has been one of our partners who have been extremely supportive of all of the efforts of the project. Of course, we have, because this is modern, we have partnered with and are able to gain the participation of local media. We have a weekly column in a local popular newspaper. We of course have our social media platforms where we encourage a lot of comments and participation from the general public. There are of course challenges. We have had reinvasion of rats on one of our very important islands for the project, but because we have built a relationship with the owner over several years, then that is something that we expect to be able to tackle successfully in very short order. Another very important challenge is the fact that we have development taking place in the NEMA. That particular development has several very differing opinions as to what should be happening. What the EAG has tried to do is encourage the participation and interest of all the stakeholders, especially the communities that are directly affected by the activities in the Northeast Marine Management Area. And we work because we would like their voice to be heard about what should be done with the area in the short term and the long term. We of course partner a lot with the tour operators. Quite a lot of them take people to the islands. The traffic on the islands has increased by 1,000-fold since the eradication of the rats. And once again, it is very important that we have their support so that we have a common goal as to what it is that we would like for the islands that make up the program. So what we have concluded from our years of doing these projects is that a good stakeholder relationship is absolutely important to the success of a conservation project, especially in a state where a lot of the project area is privately owned. The government support makes a huge difference to the ease and to the permanence of the project. We recognize that relationships have to be built over time and they have to be maintained, even if it's just an email, regular reports, updates, invitations, what have you. Those are absolutely important. And we have realized that it's not everyone will share your vision for what it is that you want to do. You have to be realistic about what it is that you can accomplish with the resource and the support that you have. And finally, and most importantly, it does really take a country to care for our offshore islands. Thank you. These are some of our partners. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Andrea. That was great. You came in under time, so good job. We don't have any questions in the Q&A panel just yet, but I do have a question. So with the restoration of Redonda and Great Bird Island and Rabbit Island as well, some of your other offshore keys, are there still islands that need restoration, or have you done them all?
No, we haven't done them all. Antigua has more than 30 offshore islands. We have tried to concentrate a lot on the islands inside the Northeast Marine Management Area, and we've also tried to do islands that are a little further away from the mainland, because then it's easier to keep the rats off the island. But the goal is there to eventually tackle every single island and remove the rats and the mongoose, because quite a few of them have mongoose on them.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, a couple questions have come in. What are some important tips to starting and maintaining positive relationships with shareholders or stakeholders?
The one thing that we have learned is that there is always somebody in the community who has a connection. So we usually start with the community that is directly, that is near the restoration site, whatever it may be. And they are usually able to say, you know, you should talk to, or you should talk to. And that is actually one of the main ways we've been able to find everybody who has a stake in what it is that we're trying to do, even people we never thought of. We've also discovered that the government involvement is absolutely important. You have to talk to them, and they might not hear you the first time, but if you are persistent, eventually somebody will offer some sort of support. And once you can draw them in a little, you can make sure that you do excellent work and draw them in quite a lot to what it is that you're hoping for.
Yeah, excellent comments. Yeah, it's so important about making those relationships and making those connections and building trust over time. So kudos to EAG and all the partners for the fantastic work you guys are doing. Time for one more quick question. Has there been, Mark Oberall asks, has there been any unexpected consequences of the anticoagulant use?
Not that we are aware of. We know, for example, that the soldier crab, the hermit crabs do consume it, but we have never had evidence that it affects them badly. And even though the rats, once they're dead, there is the potential for them to be consumed by birds, we haven't had any evidence to suggest that that has actually happened and that birds have suffered as a consequence. And also that the anticoagulant is mammalian specific. So we're not expecting any adverse effects on other species.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to hearing back from you more about your work and what else is happening on Redonda, some more of the results from there. So thanks so much for that really exciting presentation.
Thank you.